now I'm going to put a couple of eggs in to the radiator.
It might look like Turbo's cracked it, but this strange brew is a known emergency repair.
It's a bush repair to get me going.
Russell Crusher McDonough is in trouble. He's halfway through a 2,000-kilometre freight run, delivering equipment to a mining site in central Queensland. But now he's stuck by the side of the road. Things started to go wrong when Russell stopped earlier to fuel up from backup tanks. But he didn't have the right connection to pump in enough.
Without that, I'm a bit buggered.
And was forced to siphon in what he could.
We've filled up a tank on the back driver's side that has to flow into the next front tank and then across to the passenger side, which is the pickup. And if it doesn't transfer across quick enough, the truck can use more fuel than transfers across. And now it's run out. I'm going to try and bleed the air out of it.
Russell now has the problem of getting his dry engine running again. But the starter motor is powered by compressed air, and there's not enough pressure to turn it over. Using an old trucker's trick, Russell steals air from the tyres. He's already 2 hours behind schedule.
With the air out of that, into the start tank here, we've primed this, a couple of goes, should fire.
Russell's back to square one and getting further and further behind.
When these things run out of fuel, it takes a hell of a lot to get them going.
Russell needs to find more air pressure to drive the truck's starting mechanism. The answer is sitting on the trailer behind him. He can tap into the grader's supply. And with some more massaging, at last, ignition. Russell's lost valuable time, but at least he's moving again.
I usually get myself out of trouble, especially since I'm usually the one that gets myself into trouble.
Carrying his own fuel can create dramas, but it squeezes maximum profit from every run.
Fuel's quite cheap when there's no work around, and then when there seems to be plenty of work, fuel's dear. So what I've done is when the fuel's cheap, I buy it, then when I get a job, I've already got the cheaper fuel. Just a little bit of mucking around, but you know, savings of hundreds of dollars. But that was just through a bit of bad luck. We didn't have that correct fitting with us. Otherwise, there would have been a fuel transfer happening all the way along here. Anyway, can't cry over spilt milk. Job's done, we're going. It'll be right.
But already over 2 hours behind, Russell hits another problem. Belching black smoke is a bad sign.
I can just pick a slight smell of it, and just a slight hint of it in the mirror.
The last thing Russell wants is another stop, but he has no choice. An engine fire would be far worse.
I think we disturbed it just while I was up there using the primer.
One of his fuel lines is leaking, spraying diesel everywhere.
And I must have bumped it and it's cracked it and split it, and now it's just leaking fuel. These motors return a certain amount of fuel back to the fuel tank, and this hose here just transfers that fuel from one side to the other. It's gone brittle and hard, and, you know, there's a name for it, but we'll just call it not very good.
If he'd ignored it, things could have turned serious.
The fan was blowing it back onto the turbo, and so the fuel was hitting the turbo, and then, then it's creating smoke. It's a good idea to get on top of it, because when the going gets really tough, that turbo gets really, really hot, and it possibly would get hot enough to ignite the diesel leak. Then it could have got really bad.
Russell doesn't have a spare fuel line, but he does have 30 years of experience as a bush mechanic. He has something similar in his toolbox, but it's for compressed air, not diesel.
This is airline that I'm using here now. It'll be good enough.
It's a risk. If it breaks and sprays diesel on the hot engine, there could be a fire. But out here, Russell doesn't have much choice.
It is airline, not fuel line, but just hope that it's sort of like high temperature resistant. Inevitably, there is usually something else that can do two jobs, right? You might not have exactly what's needed, but there'll be something else somewhere on this truck that will fix the problem. We've spotted it, we just lifted the bonnet again, we fixed it, bonnet's down, we're going again.
Russell still has 200 kilometres to go to his destination. His giant rig relying on a tiny air hose, doing a job it's not designed for. He survived 2,500 kilometres and makes it to his first drop-off. At this depot, all he has to do is unhitch a trailer. But the next stop won't be nearly as easy. This road roller has to come off. It weighs 12 tonnes, and getting it from the tray to the ground will be a nightmare.
It's all here, we just got to get it to the ground and we're done.
The big grader is on the trailer with the ramps. But the 12-tonne road roller isn't. It means Russell will have to make a bridge between the two trailers so he can drive the roller across and then down the ramps.
What we're doing here, just a little bit of a safety. Let's tie this trailer to this trailer. Because when I bring that machine there, across here, if for some reason the two trailers get apart, it could end up messy.
A 12-tonne road roller having to cross a makeshift bridge. If anything fails, Russell's journey could end in tears. It's job done. After 3 trying days, Russell can relax. Trucking veteran Steve Graham is lining up for another run, this time through the dirt red heart of Australia. He's been hired to haul 40 tonnes of building equipment through the guts of the Outback, crossing 2 states and 1,600 kilometres.
I've got a couple of thousand k's in front of me. About 1,200 of it's dirt. And Mother Nature and dirt roads have got their little wicked ways of playing all sorts of horrible tricks on you. So we'll see how we go.
Steve can only hope the weather gods will be kind.
I'm still comfortable with my time to get to Kalgoorlie, but I can't afford any hassles out there. There's been some talk about storms and stuff out there. There's 1,200 kilometres of dirt in front of me. If you're not prepared, well, your dramas just get bigger.
Steve knows all too well what he's about to face.
This Docker River Road was absolute nightmare. The corrugations were bloody horrigations.
From now on, supplies for Steve and Teeny the dog will be precious.
Want a drink? No, we can't waste it.
For the next 1,200 kilometres, there's little water, food or fuel. Break down out here and you risk your life. Corrugations. These constant ridges turn dirt roads into bone-shaking highways from hell. Every last nut and bolt on the truck takes a beating. Steve must pull up and check his load regularly. Every stop means more time lost. But push on, and he risks damaging his load, his reputation, and the job.
I've just got onto the bad corrugations, and it doesn't take long, only a couple of kilometres. And anything that's going to come loose will rattle loose.
And it's not just the freight that's taking a battering.
What I've got here is a great big stone cut.
A tyre's been ripped clean open. Changing it here will eat up precious time and Steve's spares.
Temporary repair. You know, I'll get the rest out of this tyre rather than put another good tyre on here and take a chance.
First, Steve threads strips of soft rubber into the puncture. When the tyre's pumped back up, the air pressure should flatten the rubber, plugging the hole. But with air still pouring from the tyre, it seems one plug's not enough. While the tyre's not airtight, Steve's willing to take a gamble.
See what I get out of it.
As he's getting ready to go, Steve spots another victim of the corrugations.
That is a serve yourself right, you know. I meant to tape these plugs yesterday, I didn't, and one's dragged and buggered itself.
Steve's kicking himself. He should have taped up the trailer plugs before heading onto the dirt.
I know how bad the road can be. I know what the corrugations are like, and I know that you tape your plugs, and I looked at them yesterday and thought I better put some tape on that, and thought, no, she'll be right.
He now has no rear lights. Out here, no lights can be deadly. If he's to carry on, he must fix it.
Fortunately, I've got a plug.
If he can't fix it, he'll have to unhook and turn back for Alice Springs, 400 kilometres away. A delay that could cost him this job and several others.
Let's see how good we are. And on. Voila! We have lights.
While he has lights, he doesn't have time.
It's nearly dark. I've only got an hour or two to go.
Steve needs to push on as hard as he can on these rough roads before nightfall.
It's amazing what corrugations will do. You don't have to be on the corrugations for long for the little bits of drama to start to set in.
Drama is not what Steve needs as he hits one of the most infamous roads in Australia.
Well, here we are in the west. We're just crossed the border. We're on the Great Central Road now. We've come off the Chuparuru Road onto the Great Central Road.
The Great Central Road links the west with the heart of Australia. It's 1,100 kilometres of red dirt track, straight through the depths of the Outback. Few truckers dare to make the crossing. Those that do risk life and limb.
Some of these cars out here go back as far, model-wise, as the late 40s. Some of them just perished out here for the want of a bit of petrol or a tyre.
Suddenly, in the middle of nowhere, the latest victim of the Great Central Road.
I'll pull up here and see what's happening.
Just metres away, the same model van is an eerie sight. But this broken down tourist is lucky. A rare passing vehicle was able to help.
My wife has gone to town to see if she could get a tow truck driver to come and pick me up.
With help on its way, Steve can move on.
No worries.
Thank you very much.
We'll leave you to it. Good on you.
Yeah.
The $800 towing bill will be worth every cent. It's been a long, tough day. Finally, Steve can pull up for the night. But for Outback truckers, there's no rest until the job's done. Steve wants to head out at first light, and that means changing his leaking tyre now.
If you couldn't deal with stuff like this in this business, well, you'd have to get out of it. Stay home with Mum.
He's tired and hungry, but the veteran trucker still has some heavy lifting to do. Each wheel weighs 50 kilograms. On a bad day, they can take an hour to change. It's dawn in the Great Victoria Desert. He's had little sleep, but Steve wants to hit the road as early as he can to make up lost time. He can't afford any more delays and needs to make sure his old engine is ready for the last push.
I'll just make sure everything's pretty right with this truck.
While Steve wants to sprint to the finish line, he still has 300 kilometres of dirt to go.
I've got to keep one eye on things because there's little traps just ready to get you at a minute's notice. And it's pretty lonely country out here.
And the corrugations are back. The bitumen can't come soon enough.
And that's her. That's bitumen. That's the good stuff. Nearly 1,200 kilometres of dirt behind us. and, I don't know, 12 billion corrugations. And lots and lots and lots of cars that never made it.
Despite the battering, Steve survived the dirt.
And we'll head into some civilization. A shower and a feed, to sit down and feed that someone else cooks somewhere will be nice.
After all the delays, he's made it on time. Russell's latest mission, trucking a rickety mobile building to a remote station. 53 metres of road train on 62 tyres.
Well, we're just leaving Alice Springs now. Got the McDonnell Ranges off to our left.
Beyond the ranges lies the desert. Russell's driving into it alone and in the height of summer. Outside, it's 40 degrees plus, and Russell's old truck has no air conditioner. In these blistering temperatures, tyres are a constant worry.
Well, just popped the drive tyre.
To make matters worse, the flat tyres rolled off the rim.
It's gone flat. I can't see any visible, like tear marks in the side or any giant holes. See if I can inflate it, and then once it's pumped up, determine where or why there's leaking out of it. I'd like to be able to fix it rather than change it because it's a bit warm out here.
Jacking up his road train and wrestling with 50 kilos of hot rubber would be a recipe for heat stroke. To get the tyre back onto its rim with minimal effort, Russell has an unconventional approach. He may look like an angry pyromaniac, but Russell's got science behind him. The air consumed by the fire should suck the tyre onto the rim. But it's not working.
Normally I just put a spray of that around when it's not that hot. Just light it, draws its air from the inside and poof, the tyre seals.
Finally, success.
Bit of persistence. That was about the last try and then it was coming off.
Now to find the puncture.
I can hear it now quite clearly. The hole in the back here. Something in there. I'll dig that out first and see what I can see. Couldn't read about it. It's an old plug.
It's an old repair job that's come apart.
Tyre's nearly at the end of its life anyway, so we just do something to get it through.
He hopes a new plug will fix it.
Look at that, it's like brand new. Should be all right. We'll get going.
Russell and his patch tyre are about to hit the hard part of this journey.
It's only about 58 k's from here to Arts Bluff. And about another 30 odd k's after that we've got to go, but this 58 k's could kill this demountable.
The rocky road ahead will push his worn-out tyres and his worn-out load to breaking point.
I'm going to have to take them down to about 40 odd, and that should give this hut a smooth ride in.
Less air in the tyres will cushion the blows from the road.
Rightio, all good to go.
Until now, Russell's coffee cup has hung in there, but the road ahead is notorious for breaking more than just china.
Tyre tracks means it's gone full dusty, it's chopped up.
Holes in the road surface fill with fine dust.
these bull dust holes are little surprises. You don't know how deep they are, and that's hitting them too fast. It's the sort of thing that's going to cause damage to the hut.
His load, outside and in, is relying on him being at the top of his game.
I'm still pretty confident that that cup we positioned back there for a joke is still all right.
Now, a dry creek bed to negotiate.
A few overhanging trees here. We're just going to have to pick the right line. We've got to sort of take it out wide, make sure that the demountable building doesn't collect one of the tree branches overhead.
He's through without a scratch.
Let's still have your fingers crossed about that coffee cup. It's just coming on sunset. We're just sort of coming into Haas Bluff now.
Russell has survived the road. He's nearing his drop-off point. All that's left now is to find a place to park up and enjoy the best hours of the desert.
Just about to get up to where we're going to camp. There's a nice breeze, and I'm looking forward to a nice view in the morning.
It's not the view he had in mind.
Must have leaked.
But that's not the half of it. Further back, more carnage from the road.
Yeah, all we've had here is a wheel bearing, like, collapse. Won't be able to travel with this thing.
To fix this problem, he needs to first unload the hut. Out here, the only way to do that is with his loader. It's a tricky operation. He has to make sure he gets the forks in exactly the right spot. Balancing a 6-ton, 14-metre hut on 2 forks is an extremely risky manoeuvre. A sudden jerk or a gust of wind and this flimsy building could hit the dirt.
Perfect. Can't have a look inside, see how it travelled.
The moment of truth for his China cup.
Oh, well, the cup's still there. No tricks. Would have only had to go like that and it would have come off.
With the weight safely off his trailer, Russell can turn to the wheel bearing problem. The hub is completely destroyed. Without any spare parts, he needs to get creative. Working on his own in over 40-degree heat, Russell's just about had it.
I'm a bit out of condition. It's a bit hot.
His rig has 62 wheels. Russell thinks he can get by with one less. A makeshift sling will keep the bare hub from dragging along the ground.
Had a fair bit of tyre drama coming out here. All become a bit evident this morning when we had a look around. Anyway, it's all done now. I might sit on out of here, get a bit of breeze going through me.
Turbo's got a new truck and it's about to make its maiden run. Fully loaded, straight through the centre of Australia. But he doesn't get very far.
For f***'s sake.
An oil leak from his front wheel. It could mean trouble. Lots of it. After half an hour watching it,
I'm trying to work out exactly where it is leaking from.
the mystery leak has dried up.
Because the more I look at it, it's not leaking out of it. So, it could be old excess oil.
Turbo thinks he's safe to push on. He's now heading into the serious side of this run. An 800-kilometre dirt road shortcut through desolate country. And it doesn't take long for the corrugations to take their toll.
There's one part of the load that I'm concerned is the very two back pallets.
because they're shifting around.
He's made it to a remote cattle station.
All right, something's going on.
Checking his load, his worst fears are quickly confirmed. Dozens of bags have broken loose.
I'm going to have to try to bloody pull it all off pallets and stack it.
And the bad news just gets worse.
I think I know exactly what it is now. The actual hub itself, the shit itself, is cracked.
It's completely destroyed. Push on, and he's inviting disaster.
Well, what's going to happen is the bearings aren't going to be lubricated. They're going to overheat and then explode.
His only option, a favour from the station owner and some clever bush repairs.
Oh, yeah, that's totally isn't it? Let it sit and dry. It takes an hour or so to set rock hard.
To work, the repair will need to be perfectly watertight.
Put the sealant either side of the actual hub seal. It's a bush repair, but do what I can do to get myself going again.
Back on the road, and Turbo's hub is soon just a minor worry.
There is bull dust holes along here.
Potholes filled with fine dust are hidden along the road.
Jesus. That side of the trailer would have come up off the ground.
Turbo's worried that his load has shifted, but he wasn't expecting this mess.
You've got to be f***ing kidding. For f***'s sake. Basically, I've got to unload them off the truck, put them on the ground, and restack them all up again.
After 3 hours of back-breaking work, the restack is finished, and so is Turbo.
We're on our way out of Alice Springs now to Darwin.
Turbo wants to check his repair job is holding up. There's no leaking oil, but there's something else leaking. His radiator has a serious leak. If he keeps driving, the engine will overheat and seize up.
Now I'm going to put a couple of eggs in to the radiator.
It might look like Turbo's cracked it, but this strange brew is a known emergency repair. If his recipe works, the eggs should cook inside the radiator, then get sucked into the leak, plugging it. At last, Darwin. He's at the yard.
I can't see any movement whatsoever.
But it's too late.
Come back here at 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. All right, mate, are you right to do this unload now?
Turbo may be 12 hours late, but finally he can put one of his worst runs behind him.
How was the trip all up?
Honestly or lyingly?
Say it as it is.
It was shit. But we're here.